marketing is measuring activity and then sales is measuring outcome. There's like no shared metric in between those two groups.
I would say shared KPIs, a dream. It
Sure.
doesn't happen.
This is Revenue Remix, where we share founder stories, hard won lessons, and call out BS on anything that doesn't actually grow your business. I'm Summer Paletti, host and producer. Behind the mic, I'm a revenue growth architect for B2B SaaS and FinTech orgs, scaling without chaos. If your growth feels stuck, or if you're planning your next big thing, you're in the right place. I am your host, Summer Paletti, founder and CRO of Rise of Us, where I help people get over revenue plateaus and get to their next level of growth. And today, we're going to talk about how to do that. We're grounded in research as usual. So Forrester came out with another study on go-to-market alignment at the end of December. A lot of teams outperform their peers. You can't have sales and marketing fighting anymore. You can't give a second or no thought to customer success, and you can't ignore partnerships anymore. So we're going to talk about that. And then the podcast that dropped last month, we talked Captain Obvious on some of the top research firms, and we called them out for being a little too safe. And so we're going to do a little bit of that later in the show. Today, joining me, I have Jay Feltlinger. He is the CEO of StringCan, where mid-market B2B companies go for sales and marketing misalignment and build revenue systems that actually scale. Yes, we met on like LinkedIn yesterday, and he's filling in for somebody because thank goodness he had free time and I had someone drop out last minute. I've got Brandon Smith, fractional CMO, who aligns marketing strategy with real revenue outcomes. We met through 40?
40.
Awesome. All right, I've got Daniel Thrall, customer success principal at Intuit, driving retention and expansion at scale. He is here because he's all about proactive customer success and retention strategies, and he came through a network intro. Shimon Perry, coach to new founders and execs on growing businesses without breaking them. Yes, and we met through Bordy also. So without further ado, we are going to jump right into it, grounded in that research from Forrester. So Forrester research shows that organizations with strong go-to-market alignment see 19% faster growth and 15% higher profitability. So those are not small numbers. And of course, they compound over time. So with all the uncertainty in the market right now, the thing you can't afford is to miss a target and have your sales and marketing leaders attacking each other instead of attacking the problem. Time and energy wasted, and it solves nothing. So sales and marketing alignment, it should be a no-brainer by now. However, when I talk to marketers, they nod and say, yes, it should be a no-brainer. And then when I get inside of growth stage companies, it's not a no-brainer. So that's why we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So let's start with the foundation that, like, most companies still haven't figured it out. So I'm going to start with you, Brandon. What is actually breaking in the sales marketing relationship, and give us an insight on how teams can fix it?
Absolutely. I think what's absolutely breaking, for one, is communication. And I think that's a huge part of the misalignment between sales and marketing. Who does what? Who gets value for what? Both of us are ultimately aggressive, assertive people who love saying, hey, look at me. I did this. We win. We're awesome. But the real problem is we're on the same team. We're just in different departments, i.e. sports reference, offense and defense. One of them's protecting the support of the inbound structure, and the other one's building up the infrastructure of the business operations. So simultaneously, we have different functions, but we all think that one person or one entity is doing, one thing that's better or grandiose than another, and we're all trying to prove value. Marketers are saying, look at our leads. We're driving impact. There's inbound. People are demand. We've got content. The curation is going well. The conversations are going well. People are interested. And here's sales saying, if they're interested, they should buy. And they only buy once they talk to us to close the deal. And so I really think that misalignment really comes into play where we're talking about attribution more than we're talking about end of results, where it comes to what's a qualified lead, closing sales, what's the timeline. So for me, those things really are the reasons for misalignment when it comes to marketing and sales.
Yes, I like that you took it to communication, and I'm going to add one little thing. I'm always telling sales folks that you got to give marketing an attaboy. You win a big deal, you did not win that by yourself. And you got to high
Amen.
five marketing, because that's where some of the breakdown happens, is when sales takes their victory lap and acts like they did it all by themselves.
Telling you.
So, Jay, why don't you add your perspective, please?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what he was talking about. I think to add on to it, what I've been doing this now for about 25 years, and the one thing that I've noticed besides the relationship communication side is the operating system part of it. And so for those that are familiar with like business operating systems like EOS or scaling up or metronomics or whatnot, for the clients that we work with that are leveraging some kind of operating system in place, I find we're having much better success. And I think the biggest thing that, Brandon touched on is marketing is measuring activity and then sales is measuring outcome. There's like no shared metric in between those two groups. And so from what we've seen for working with our clients, if all the revenue generating teams are working from like one revenue system, so like one dashboard, one definition of what a qualified or shared target is, I feel like then you have a better opportunity where the alignment stops being about like meetings and becomes simple math. I think that visibility thing on both sides, it does reduce that whole finger pointing issue that we've seen where there's a communication or alignment breakdown.
Yes, yes. I love that so much. Thank you for adding that. Let's see, Shimon, from the earlier side, when you're talking to people that are starting and growing early stage companies, is there anything you see that, like, how can we get started out right?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to assume accountability.
Mm,
This is part of the issue that I see on those dashboards where you go over them and you look and people start, assign blame or assign reasoning, but no one is taking accountability or taking ownership of this. And I think this is the key issue. And the ones that I work with, accountability needs to be very clear. So clarity on that part is necessary.
And Jay talked about goals. I want shared goals. Sometimes that's the challenge, is that sales and marketing, they actually have different goals.
Hmm.
Generate a ton of leads, close qualified deals. You think those go together, but they kind of don't. So do you think there's any way that we can from the beginning, like, get a shared growth related goal in an early stage company?
I would say shared KPIs, a dream. It doesn't happen. And the reason is that each one of them develop their own KPIs. Marketing develops their own KPI. And the same with CS has a different KPI and sales have a different KPIs. And the executives are encouraging this. And every time there is a discussion about shared, there's always a resistance, and it's especially from sales. But I would say that this is the key. There's no shared KPI, and there needs to be. I mean, this is the key to success. I think working like a symphony. You need to work together. Otherwise, it's everyone is playing their own instruments, and there's no really coordination between all of them. And bringing it all together requires on this shared KPIs. Marketing and sales, you mentioned. I don't know, lead to close ratio. You could actually decide on those KPIs and discuss with with how can I do better instead of blame. Like only suggestions. I do not, with my advice is to not start to go around with the blame. Always try to figure out how you can do better, how you can work together.
Love that. And since Daniel's here and we're all about proactive customer success, the one thing that sticks in my brain, I was talking to one of my marketing collaborators a week or two ago, and she said, "What drives me crazy is no one thinks about customer success." So, Daniel, how can we make sure that we're folding customer success into these alignment initiatives and that we don't treat you all like, "Oh my God, that client's quitting, please save them"?
Well, you brought it up, Shimon, about shared KPIs. What you all are describing is really accurate, but people are working in silos. If they hit their KPI, then yay, they did it, right? I got a sale. But if you can't deliver upon that sale. And so, for example, if there's a huge marketing campaign and it drives all sorts of volume in the world I work in, that often results in people calling for help. They start their taxes and they need help. But if the marketing organization does not communicate, hey, we're doing this massive campaign, then we don't staff up to support the demand that that drives, then customers will call and say, I'm going to do my taxes and I need help. And there's a 45-minute wait to talk to somebody. Then you have this experience not meeting expectations and people have to put in a lot of extra work. And there's great research that correlates effort with loyalty. So if it takes a ton of effort to get the job done that you want to get done, people just aren't loyal and they don't stay. They'll go to a place where there's less friction and to do the job that they need to get done. And so yeah, you might close the sale. It is 6 times more, according to the book Never Lose a Customer Again. It's 6 times more expensive to retain a customer than to get a new customer. Excuse me, to get a new customer than it is to retain a customer. It's much more expensive to get a new customer. So if you have that coordination across all of these channels, then that returning revenue retention, it just continues happening with so much less effort than pulling in hot leads and closing the deal. Like they just stay if we can reduce the effort. So it's just a coordination across the organizations that would make my life easier, but that also just really help the business.
And I'm going to add, no, I forget the stat, but there's something about how the percentage of happy customers that would refer other customers.
Yeah.
So we can use that as part of the flywheel. We don't have a partnership expert on here because he couldn't come, but
Social proof, right? It's social proof. It's very powerful. Yeah, I mean, you
totally.
look at it. I mean, we were going out for pho the other night, and because one restaurant was closed, and I'm like, it doesn't look so good here. Like you just look at what other people are saying, and so you're exactly right, Summer.
Yes, Yelp. I think it's the bane of the existence of some small businesses.
Totally, totally. But that's why you have to care about the customer after you've closed the deal, because if they hate you after you've closed the deal, they're vocal. They're vocal.
Yeah, for sure. I want to, since we're talking a little bit about customer success, we're gonna lean into that a little bit more and raise your hand if you have thoughts on how customer success cannot be an afterthought just through your lens. Yes, Shay.
Well, I appreciate you having Daniel on this because most of the shows that I'm on are focused only on sales and marketing, and this is one of the areas that I'm quite passionate about because I feel like it literally could make or break a company's scale or growth. And so what's interesting is when we have the whole alignment conversation, it often ends at like the sale. So like, hey, marketing and sales did their job, and now alignment is good. We're all good to go. But what I've seen is that like a huge miss that I've seen companies that are trying to grow is that customer success is basically brought in after the sale
Right.
instead of basically being baked into the sales process. And so the complaints that I've heard from many of our clients in the past is that the client services team gets like this handoff and now they're inheriting this like wrong fit client. And expectations are a huge headache from what a marketing and or sales promised. And so now all of a sudden the CS team has to basically find a way to like retain this mess. And so I just feel like there's a huge opportunity here where like if you can think about how the data is being qualified around the leads and there's this shared message around marketing versus sales and customer service, I think from Daniel's point of view, the retention you're going to have is going to be such a longer time frame, but also your client's not going to be like annoyed where like they have the A team selling them and all of a sudden they get handed off to the C team. The CS team
Exactly.
might be fantastic, but they're just inheriting some mess. And so I just feel like alignment shouldn't stop at like close one. I think it has to live through that whole renewal process or mindset.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And Brandon, let's talk just a wee bit about how alignment maybe between customer success and marketing can actually improve messaging.
Absolutely. I mean, spot on. Piggyback off of what he's exactly referencing. You know how marketing puts out these amazing pieces of content, these white papers, these amazing ads. And we talk about things when it comes to our metrics where it says, oh, what's our cost of acquisition? Because, marketing's often spending budget and money. But often in those ads, what we're putting out on our content is ultimately what customer success is supposed to be delivering on. And as referenced, if customer service isn't delivering or can't deliver on the expectations on what we're over promising, if you will, by virtue of our ads and content, then there's a misalignment there. So by some virtue, it's a bait and switch. You said I'm going to get this, and so far I haven't gotten that. And it's usually an emotional appeal. And we all know, as people in the optics of sales and marketing, people buy for emotional reasons. And if they're buying into our offers and services, then we're selling them something that a human must deliver via customer service. Ergo, the alignment must be there. They must be brought on early into the conversation when it comes to an MQL and sales is having those conversations, because the expectation versus reality complex of the human comes into value, where you see something, you want something, you buy it, but did it meet those expectations?
Yeah, for real. And then we haven't talked at all about voice of the customer. So I'm going to layer that before I switch topics. The person, a lot of times I hear people talking about, like, oh, you got to have marketing talk to sales because then you get the voice of the customer. You know who has the voice of the actual customer? Customer success. And so that's where you get those nuggets. That's where you get the language that your customers are actually using that makes your marketing content resonate even more. So then we're going to switch gears, because one of the things we like to do on this show is punch up. Forrester's talking about go-to-market alignment. It should be a no-brainer, but it isn't, which is why we talk about it. However, here's where I'm calling Captain Obvious on that. We have been talking about marketing and sales alignment and customer success for years. Talk enough about is everybody else. I have seen an organization. There was one organization, my last corporate role, like the go-to-market function, we were all aligned. And what happened was the office folks formed an alignment also. And it became like reality TV drama, because then it was the loud go-to-market folks that are customer facing, and then the quiet folks that felt like we were bullying them. And it was awful. So if we're ignoring delivery or service, if we're ignoring product, if we're ignoring IT, that's challenging, maybe more for the HR folks than anybody else. So we're going to talk a little bit more about like how those of us in go-to-market can work better with the back office functions. I didn't even mention finance. Shame on me. If you can't get your budget approved because finance hates you, you are screwed. So we're going to talk a little bit about the function that holds growth hostage. So your revenue isn't just stuck because sales and marketing aren't aligned. It's because customer service has no power, partnerships have no budget, product only hears from sales when they need a feature to land a whale, and finance doesn't trust the forecasts because you missed them last year and the year before. And every year's gonna be better, right? So let's talk about which function, either go to market or back office, is ignored right now, and what would happen if you showed them some love. So Jay, I want you to go first.
Well, first of all, I think you nailed it on the whole finance part. It reminded me of a story. We had a manufacturing firm up in the Northwest of the US, and the marketing and sales team wanted to have us do all this new growth strategy for them, and all they kept getting back was no's. And so the finance team was the main reason why. And so I actually just went ahead. I'm not afraid to meet with people. And so I met with their CFO to understand what's going on here. And his whole comment back to me was, I just don't trust their forecasts. He's like, the sales team keeps on promising all this stuff. I built the company strategy based upon counting on this, and every quarter it fails. And so it gets to the point now where they just keep on wanting to hire, like marketing people like you guys, and I just don't believe it's going to work. And so I just feel like, to your point there, it's funny. It's like marketers don't often think about the finance side. I think the sooner we have them as part of the conversation, I think the better off we're going to be. So that way they can see like the velocity of deals and have confidence in improving, like the spend that we're recommending. Because again, if they don't trust the numbers, we have found that the growth literally stalls. And then so we have this huge headache around creating friction. And it's just not fun where, marketing sales might be excited about what we're recommending, but the rest of the department, especially the CFO, is not on board. We're just going to have, a stalemate.
Yeah. Well, and they dig in their heels further, right?
Hmm.
I totally get it. Okay, so Brandon, who gets ignored?
It's absolutely finance. It's absolutely the finance side. I'm like, I can't even, as a marketer, I understand it because sometimes even in those conversations with, with sales, it's those people who are going to effectively sign those contracts. It might be a CFO who's signing the contract because they're responsible for the budget. So we need to adhere to the needs of the finance and back office department because they're holding the business structure of their entire organization, at helm. They're the power at the pen, if you will. And so having their support, making sure that, we hit on revenue targets, making sure we're closing those projections, these numbers matter. And for me and my organizations and marketing teams, we talk about having alignment on finance teams and making sure that we're aligned on the revenue team, making sure that we're hitting budget, we're projecting well, we're aligned in these areas because I want more money, but I have to show proof of concept somewhere. And that alignment taps into, like we said, cost of acquisition. Customer success can help there, but it also taps into the close of sale, which is why sales and marketing alignment is there. And so finance, and oftentimes with outside organizations that we're looking to bring in partnership with our product or service, really hold the power to the pen in alignment.
Hmm. Thank you. All right, Shimon, you're up next. Who needs some love?
In my opinion, I mean, what you described here are all bottlenecks. I mean, anyone with the power can actually, stop the flow of the water in the hose. I mean, and definitely finance because it has a major leverage. But I think the most ignored are mostly, from my experience, product. And what I see is that they're being treated as a feature factory in many cases. And if they don't do what they do right, then the whole, I would say, misaligned roadmap shows up. And usually what this is actually affecting companies pretty heavily. I don't know, they're the ones that suffer usually with budgets. I know I'm consulting for one company, it's like very difficult to get anyone to buy anything for product teams. And they're usually don't have no budgets, no authority, and are treated as something as if, this is what we need. I think someone mentioned here before, it's like, here's the feature we need in order to close a sale. They're like a feature factory. And this misalignment is causing them to chase the wrong products, the wrong decisions. It creates a loop between them and customer success and sales that is not really contributing to the growth of the company. So I think, in my opinion, these are the most ignored. In terms of bottlenecks, the ones with the money, of course, have a lot of leverage. That's for sure.
Yeah, I like that you talked about product because what I have seen is that sales wants to win the deal. And of course, you need revenue, but they don't always understand that you keep asking for those features and you delay longer term projects that maybe you care about, the next version of the system or the next service level or whatever. And if sales can be very short sighted, we are very coin operated. Like, I want this right now because of this. And if you bully product, you can derail the whole product roadmap, right? So I'm glad you brought product. Okay, Daniel, you're up next, and you cannot say that customer success gets ignored. So who could you show some love to?
Love the idea that Shimon just brought up about product being ignored and thinking about the big picture rather than just that short-term revenue. And all of your comments just highlight to me how people are working in silos. And so imagine that sales is in the room and we want to, hey, if we only could create this new feature, and marketing says, well, in order to promote that, we'll need this, and product says, well, in order to deliver that, we need to do this, and here's the staff customer success says that we need to support this. And so there's just an alignment problem because what Shimon, you were saying at the beginning, everybody needs the same goals. I don't know that will ever happen, but if we can see how our goals actually can contribute to one another's goals, like, hey, if you can support this, then it will help me deliver my goals, which it's just like all ships that will rise. And somewhere it's going back to what you said is that flywheel. And so they're just like a coordination. I mean, you can't do this on every little thing that you release. We need a new button. But if you say this is a massive thing that will help the health of our company for 3 years, or even just this next fiscal year, just get in the room together and figure out where the mutual incentives are and how we can support each other. So you're not operating in silos and you can think beyond just this quarter.
Yes. So it's really complementary goals.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that little nugget. Okay, so we're going to transition into the lightning round, and the lightning round is fast. So this is where we give people stealable nuggets. What is one thing a listener can do today to start building bridges internally? Jay, I want you to go first, please.
Right? I kind of already alluded to it with what I mentioned earlier on in the show, but I think for me, the biggest thing is if they can't agree on the defining what qualified means, I feel
Mm,
like they're going to have a huge problem on what if they've had success or not. And so what I have found is that like you sit down with the sales, the marketing, and the CS team, and you agree on like what does qualified and conversion actually mean? Because we've had issues with our clients where they all have different definitions of this, and then we all think we're having a good day or a bad day, and then if we aren't aligned there, I feel like we're going to have a lot of confusion around that lack of shared knowledge. So that's what my advice would be.
yes, it's a no-brainer, but
Yep.
it's not, right?
Yep.
Thank you. Made it nice and simple. Brandon, you're up next. One.
I think we all need, yeah, I think we all need to walk in the hat of our other teams. I think marketing needs to walk in the hat of customer success. Sales needs to walk in the hat of marketing. Product needs to walk in the hat of what's the last remaining one? Let's go with product needs to walk in the hat of customer success, because ultimately we're serving at the helm of the end user, almost like in a political situation. We serve the other people in our organization so that we all can get the wins that we need to say, hey, we're doing well. And ultimately, that's if we understand what each other is doing, what we're trying to achieve, and how that benefits the overall outcome of the business function.
Nice. That is a surprise. I didn't think you were going to go shadowing, cross training, walk a mile in their shoes. It's really powerful. Thank you. Okay, who's next? Daniel.
Brandon, you said exactly what I was thinking. One of the things that we do at Intuit is we create problem statements, and then you try to solve that problem statement. What's my customer problem statement? But sometimes the customer can be an internal customer. It can be what's marketing's problem statement? What are they trying to solve? Or what is product trying to solve? And if you can understand what their incentives are, what they're trying to accomplish, what makes them successful, and then really get that, and how can I help you be successful? You get some reciprocity starts coming in there, and then they want to do it for you because we're getting out of those darn silos. And so I would say create problem statements and understand the incentives for our internal customers, not just our external paying customers.
That is a very customer success answer, by the way. Good job.
Hmm.
All right, Shimon, you're last.
Yes. Two suggestions. One, I would say do something. I did it, worked well. It's called bridge coffee. Do that with leaders from other departments. Just just walk to the other side of the building or floor and created this bridge coffee moments. You sit there in the marketing department or product department and you speak to the leader on the other side and just ask them to basically say, what can I do better? How can we help? How can I help you? If you do that, instead of like, tell me what should I improve, you will get a different answer. But usually, like, how can I do better and how can I help you? Gets a lot of great suggestions from the other sides. Do something, meet with the other sides, with the other department. Do bridge coffee. The other suggestion is create rituals for cross platforms, cross department, create rituals. I created a ritual that involves the product department, for example, to make sure that they're not ignored as well. It's like we all talked about what we're working on, how are doing things, how can we cooperate. There was no shame discussions was allowed, no shaming whatsoever, no blame, no shame is not allowed in those discussions. But cross department rituals are necessary. It could be meetings on Zoom discussing, here's what I'm working on, here's what we're going to do, taking suggestions. But those rituals are building the bridges, and especially if you have a global team.
Ooh, yeah, we do not have time to talk about that. But yes, and I'm going to add just one little trick that worked for me. It's a little like Daniel's problem statement, but like I worked for smaller, scrappier companies. We didn't call it that. It's like asking people how they can help instead of prescribing something, especially with marketing and product. Like, I need this. No, no, no. I'm having a challenge with this. Can you help me? Almost like an internal therapist or something. It really changed the game for me. I came across a wee bit less pushy.
And you're empowering other people to share what they're good at, and you give them some, like, they have some volition in it as opposed to you telling them. So I love that, Summer.
Yeah. They don't want to be order takers or whatever. Okay. This was great. Thank you so much, Shimon, Brandon, Daniel, Jay, for joining us. I hope you guys had some fun. We are going to transfer now to recording the Too Spicy for Public topic that listeners go online, sign up and subscribe, and you'll get that too. For all of you listening in the gym or the car, I appreciate you too. Follow our guests so that you can continue learning from them, and I will see you all next week.